So I'm going to, the webinar has begun and we are recording. And Javier, I will press start for interpreting. Thank you.
And people are coming in.
Wonderful. We'll just give a couple minutes for everybody to join us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you think we should get started, Dr. Rizzuto?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. You're the pro around here in this department. So
Just because I'm older.
Definitely wiser. So I'm so grateful that you're here tonight. And not only are you just so well respected in our industry, in our area of study, but just personally, I'm grateful for what you've brought into my life personally and professionally. But tonight, Dr. Rizzuto is here to speak on the subject of stress in our students, a subject that couldn't be more timely. And as I said, you're really nationally renowned for your work in the field of student mental health and social emotional learning and restorative practices. And you draw from an extensive list of your experiences and accolades, including a teacher, a Fulbright scholar, a meditation leader, a mentor, professor, and the recipient of the Ambassador of Peace Award. I know you as you were the coordinator of student mental health and social emotional learning, and now as an educational consultant. And I could probably spend the next hour just glowing about everything that you've brought into my life and the lives of so many in our area. But without further ado, I think I'll just pass it on to you and let you get started.
Thank you, Kristen. It is definitely my pleasure to be here. Let me get my slides in order. And can you see those?
Yep.
Great. Well, I want to welcome all of you at the end of a long day, I'm sure, to spend an hour talking about student stress. But spoiler alert, we're not just going to talk about kids. So, you know, it's really an honor to be here. You know, being a parent is one of the toughest jobs in the world, if not the toughest. So, congratulations on that. And let's jump in to do some deep breathing first, because I want to kind of relax you a little bit so that you're a little more open and primed for learning. So sit back in your chair with your feet flat on the floor, arms comfortably in your lap. Loosen your jaw a little bit. You might want to raise and lower your shoulders. Carry a lot of tension there. And I'm going to count, and we're going to do like 5 rounds of deep diaphragmatic breathing where your belly expands on the inhale, contracts on the exhale. So we're going to count, I'm going to count to 4, pause 2, exhale to the count of 4, pause 2. Ready? And we're going to inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And let's begin. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, exhale, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2. Again, inhale deeply, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, exhale through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2. And again, deep inhalation, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, exhale through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2. Final round, your deepest inhalation yet, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, exhale, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2. Thank you. Just notice how you're feeling right now. So let's start the presentation with some key understandings first. That youth experience stress. That might seem, like duh, obvious, but a lot of adults don't think kids have stress. Temporary stress is good for you. It actually can promote good health, resiliency. It's a motivator. So stress isn't a bad thing. Stress can be managed with healthy coping strategies. And there's the key word, healthy. We're going to talk tonight about what some of those coping strategies are. Chronic or acute stress, meaning it's ongoing stress that is not managed well with healthy coping strategies, can impact learning, mental and physical health, which we'll briefly talk about. I know several of you had questions when you registered about depression and anxiety. And brain development. It also affects the development of the brain. And here is the adult piece here. Adults can model and teach healthy stress coping strategies. We're going to start off with that first. We can help by creating non-threatening environments and help youth normalize their stress response. So we want to help kids understand stress is a part of life, and it's how you react to a stressful situation that makes the difference. So youth, young people, very vulnerable to stress for a whole variety of reasons. Any family disruption or conflicts, divorce, separation, loss of a loved one, moving can be a cause of stress. Parental mental health. So the mental health of parents is really important, and we'll speak to that in a few moments. Socioeconomic distress. Kids know when financial hardships are occurring, and it does distress them. Some kids just have a more vulnerable temperament to stress. They're just born that way. They have just a more temperamental nervous system. Abuse or neglect of children's needs definitely is a stressor, and that's a chronic toxic stressor because that has a tendency to go on. Overscheduled, hectic routine. Several of you asked questions when you registered about your son or daughter doing all of these things. And, that can really overwhelm a child and a teen. Free time is really critical. So, check out those schedules. Kids don't need 4 AP classes in a semester. Not recommended. Even fun things like parties and getting a new pet or having a new addition to the family, a new brother or sister can cause stress. A couple of you mentioned in your questions, test anxiety, difficulty with schoolwork can be stressful. And then finally, the pandemic. Oh my gosh, that stressed all of us, adults, kids, older, younger. That stressed all of us. We had all these disrupted schedules. We were in isolation. We lacked social interaction. Thank goodness that's starting to ease a little bit. So kids really are very vulnerable to stress. And then finally, community violence, bullying at school, bullying in the community can be very, very stressful. Let's see if I can move this away. I have a feeling this is getting in the way. Let me hide my toolbar. Okay. During a crisis, kids do as well as the adults are doing in their lives. Stress and emotions, other kinds of emotions, are contagious. So we're going to start out with the adults in the room first. How are your stress levels? How are you managing your stress? Because in a crisis, kids are watching. And because emotions are contagious, we can, just like a virus is contagious, we can pass along stress or we can pass along calm. So you have a lot of power as a parent or a guardian. There are 10 essential skills of parenting, and I'm going to only talk about 2 today. The first essential parenting skill is the ability to provide love and affection. And I want to say provide and show love and affection and caring. We need to demonstrate that to our kids, that we care for them, we love them, we really are connected and they're important in our lives. But the number 2 essential parenting skill doesn't have anything to do with kids. The number 2 essential parenting skill is parents' ability to manage their own stress. Parents who manage their own stress, they had much better relationships with their children and their kids. So this is a predictor. Think about it. When you're stressed and anxious, who wants to approach a stressed person? They're irritable, they're negative, they may be withdrawn, they may be, anxious. That doesn't really bode well for individuals and kids coming towards a parent. So when you think about it, and there's been a lot of studies in this area, that lower family stress is tied to improved child behavior. Think about emotion contagion again. Stressed parents, stressed kids. Calm parents, calm kids. Same thing with teachers in the classroom. I do a lot of work with teachers and principals on this topic and how to make a classroom environment a calm environment, and how to even teach kids some of the practices that you're going to learn tonight. So think about your own stress. So they did a national study, the American Psychological Association, and they asked kids, when your parents are stressed, how do you feel? And you can see the information, the data here is broken down into all kids, the top dark blue bar, kids from 8 to 12 years old, and then teens, 13 to 17, are the green bar. So what are you noticing here? Emotion contagion. Kids are sad when their parents are stressed. They're worried when their parents are stressed. They may even be frustrated and annoyed all the way down. And then you have those kids that are very, resilient for some reason, or just just doesn't pick up the contagion and it doesn't bother them. But that might be for a whole variety of reasons. So it's this connection, that kids are only as healthy really as the adults around them. And this has to do with how our brain works and how we learn through imitation. We learn by watching. So kids are watching how parents are handling, their frustrations, their changes in life, their challenges, their joys. And that's how we learn. We imitate others around us. So if your coping skills are healthy, then your kids are watching you, exercise and maybe do deep breathing practices when, you're anxious, or, take a break often and sit quietly, or, take a walk, those kinds of things. So you're being watched, and your kids are learning from you how to handle life's ups and downs. So parents and other adults play a crucial role in helping kids get a handle on their stress by modeling healthy stress management behaviors. So when you think about stress and what makes you anxious, how do you react? You have a choice too. Do you do deep breathing? Do you do prayer? Do you do mindfulness practices? Do you exercise regularly? Do you eat healthy? All of those can be modeled. I can't emphasize modeling enough. Do, others watch you, your kids are watching you, how you handle stress. So I did mention we're going to start with the adults. So here's a practice that's not only good for adults, but is great for kids, especially teenagers. There's a wonderful neuroscientist, Dr. Richie Davidson. He's at the University of Wisconsin Center for Healthy Minds. And I was at a lecture that he gave, and someone on education and health and wellness, and how we should be in education, what we should be offering. And someone in the audience asks the question, what can we do for teenagers? What practices, what strategy should we teach teens? He thought for a while and then said, gratitude. That kind of blew me away. I wasn't expecting gratitude, but there is some real interesting research that shows that gratitude can decrease aggressive behavior, for example, in teenage boys. So pretty interesting. And the research on gratitude for adults is huge. People are happier when they're grateful. They exercise more. Their relationships are healthier and they're more connected. And so, think about gratitude. Getting up in the morning, what are you grateful for? Take a moment to pause, maybe focus on your breath and what are you grateful for? Or right before you go to sleep, what are you grateful for? People that kept a gratitude journal that jot down 2 to 3 times, 2 to 3 things, small things. Maybe you're grateful for that delicious cup of coffee in the morning. Maybe you're grateful that you had a wonderful warm place to sleep last night. There's tons of things that we can be grateful for. So that's your first stress management practice, along with the breathing that we did at the outset. So what do youth need to flourish? Well, they need this nurturing environment. And not only does it have a profound effect on developing brain, but on their human development too. So all kids need love, care, and that sense that they're safe, okay, that they're not fearful in the stress response. They need positive relationships in their lives, adults, peers, siblings, and social networks, other people in their lives. They need high challenge but low threat. So if an adult threatens a child, you've just triggered the stress response. Now, we want them to do well. We want them, we want to challenge them. we're up for a challenge. Kids are up for being challenged, but in a non-threatening way. So it's not, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Creative outlets, novelty, and play. And I want to spend just a moment on play. Play not only is good, play is good for adults too, by the way. But I'm talking about unstructured play. Someone wrote in their question something about too much structure, no more freedom. Yep, I kind of agree with that. Open-ended play. Play really has no purpose, but in kids, play is work because they're learning social skills. They're learning how to take turns. They're learning to understand others. They're learning to listen. They're learning to put, themselves out there. So unstructured play, vital, really vital for social emotional development and health. Sleep. We have an epidemic here of sleep problems, and I'm not just talking about, adults in the pandemic and, some of us are, have insomnia, etc. Sleep is so critical for young kids. Teenagers need 9 hours of sleep. Someone put a question in about their teen who wasn't getting enough sleep because they had all these things to do, homework and sports and all on and on. Not having enough sleep can be a gateway to depression. It can be a gateway to diabetes and eating disorders. It can be a gateway to anxiety, and let alone not able to make good decisions. So I can't impress the fact enough that, I got to ask, what can I do about depression? What can I do if my child is anxious or depressed? Make sure they're getting enough sleep. Critical. I could spend an hour just on sleep. Physical activity and breaks. There's another activity that will reduce stress. Physical activity and taking breaks. There's something to be said for, setting a timer every 90 minutes or every hour or maybe even every 45 minutes. Take a break. We do, if you're on Zoom calls a lot with work, etc., it can get to be overwhelming. Standing up, stretching, walking outside, having your kid, in the middle of homework. Some of this homework is like way hours and hours. It's crazy. It's not very appropriate. So, kids need downtime too as well. And of course, stress coping skills. So it's all, stress is not going to go away. That's life, right? We got to adjust to stressful situations and respond. It's how we respond. Stress is like between our ears, and it's our reaction, to what happens around us that makes a difference. So we all, get stressed by different things, but we all have a choice of how to react. So, what is stress? I have a video for you, and it's about 4 minutes or so. What is stress?
How often do you hear people say, "I'm so stressed out right now," or "That makes me so anxious"? How many times have you said it yourself? We often confuse stress with anxiety, and this confusion has led many of us to become afraid of one of the most natural and important states of our physical and mental health, our stress response. It seems to make sense that if stress is such a big part of our lives, we ought to take some time to think about what stress actually is and how we can manage it. It turns out that even how we think about the stress response has a big impact on how it affects us. Unfortunately, stress has developed a bit of a bad rap recently. And while there are certain types of stress that are not good for us, most of it is actually helpful. In fact, working through daily stressors is precisely how we build skills and resilience. It's time to start changing the conversation about stress. So let's say we have a big challenge in our environment, which is called a stressor. It could be an exam, a big assignment, or really most problems that we face. We start to feel the physical symptoms. They might be a racing heart, rapid breathing, body tension, or not sleeping. We're confronted by the challenge, and if we make it through, the stress response subsides or gradually goes away. Here's a map of a normal stress response. It may come on more quickly or gradually, but that's the general idea. The stress response is normal. It's actually our body's best effort to get us ready to face the challenges that come our way. Without some level of stress, we don't perform well. Same thing goes if we have too much. Now let's go back to when we first experienced the stress response. This is when we're at an important point where we can choose how we interpret those physical sensations. Let's call them Path A and Path B. On Path A, we can think, I'm so stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. Here we go again. I can't handle this, or I'm not going to go. Or on Path B, we can think, my body's telling me I have something to face. This could be tough, but I'll find a way to get through it. My body's helping me to get ready to face this. These are two very different interpretations, and it turns out your interpretation of the stressor is what really matters. If we avoid situations or things that cause the stress response, it may make us feel better in the short term, but when we encounter the challenge again in the future, it actually makes the stress response even worse. On the other hand, if you think through what's causing your stress response in the first place, what strategies or problem solving you can use to face the challenge head on, it will reduce the intensity of the stress response. This is how we adapt and learn new skills to use the next time. Although the Path B way of thinking may not come as naturally, and facing stressors takes courage, the more you practice this approach, the easier it will become. While the physical sensations of the stress response and anxiety are similar, the outcome is very different. The hallmarks of an anxiety disorder are persistent avoidance and withdrawal, where it causes major impairment in your life. That's more than just a stress response. So, putting this all together, let's start by labeling stress for what it is. The stress response. It's normal. It's a motivator. It isn't anxiety or depression. It's just stress. Next, check your thinking and try to interpret stress as helpful. I'm going to build some new skills. My brain is ramping up to help me get through this. Then, ask yourself, how am I going to step up to the problem causing me stress? What strategies do I have, and who can I ask for help? And finally, you may choose a helpful stress management technique, such as box breathing, mindfulness, physical exercise, or something else. But remember, calming strategies ultimately provide temporary relief until you're able to face the stressor. So, the more we understand our stress response, the easier it becomes to manage. For more information about stress and anxiety, check us out at teenmentalhealth.org.
So, one of the things take away from that is that how we think.
How often do you hear people say, I'm so
Sorry.
stressed out?
How we think about stress makes a difference. If we think, oh, okay, it's a challenging situation, but I know what to do, or I can ask for help. They found in this research that actually your blood vessels will stay calm, if you will, not expand, into high blood pressure if you think these thoughts. So our thoughts can even change the blood flow in our body. So a certain amount of stress is normal. This is where we want to be. In this medium, stressed out, not disorganized and overwhelmed by stress. A little bit more information that comes out of Harvard University, and the Center Council for Developing Child talks about positive stress. That this is, the good stress that we all face. Your heart starts racing, you might have some stress hormones, but it's positive and we learn from this. Then there's tolerable stress. Things like, well, for instance, positive stress would be like maybe going to the doctor for the first time, going back to school, having a fight with a friend, that kind of thing. Tolerable stress, maybe loss of a loved one, something a little more serious. But if a child has supportive relationships, they can learn from this stress, like moving maybe could be, a little more serious stress for some. But if they have supportive relationships, these experiences can turn out to be something they learn from and positive. It's this toxic ongoing stress, like would happen from abuse or neglect or family dysfunction, that there's no break from the stress. It just goes on and on and on. This is the kind of stress that would change how our brain develops. It can impact our health and our immune system as well. And so let's look at what we see, how ongoing this more toxic kind of stress impacts the brain, behavior, and learning. Well, first of all, we have a beautiful piece of our brain that's the amygdala. It's kind of the alarm system. This is what processes fear and anger in the brain. And if we don't have, if we get triggered, challenges, our stress response gets triggered, and we don't have coping skills, then we're just going to be impulsive. We're going to be highly emotional. We won't be able to regulate and calm ourselves down. The hippocampus is another part of the brain that's highly reactive to stress, and this is where new memories, one of the places in the brain where new memories get developed and where we remember details. And then this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is where the decision making, attention, emotion control, that where we can become calm and focus if we use this part of the brain. So stress can be highly toxic to our brain. And a highly stressed brain doesn't work very well. It's really hard to control our emotions, learning, and making decisions. And speaking, of learning, chronic stress is the enemy of learning. I mean, think about it. If you have to learn something new, you have a new software program, or you're trying to learn something new on your phone or whatever, and you're agitated, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, how easy is it for you to learn something new? Not very. And so what's the mental state we want to be in for learning? It's being calm and alert. Calm alertness. So it's not sleep. It's, being alert and aware of yourself and your surroundings in a calm way. So when we have chronic stress and don't have healthy coping skills, it can really affect our working memory. We can't remember things. Have you ever been so stressed that you can't remember where you put your keys the night before and you're in a rush in the morning to get out of the house? And if you're highly stressed and not able to regulate, your memory is going to be impacted. Social skills, how you get on with people. Your courtesy is a little bit less. You're more irritable. You might not, young kids might not take turns. They're, very sensitive to what people are saying. Habit changes. Really tough to change habits when you're highly stressed. Decision making. You can't make really good decisions. You need a calm, alert brain to make good decisions. So let's briefly look at the link between mental health and stress. And several of you had questions, about anxiety, depression, etc. I can't go, into a lot of detail, but I want to respond to a few of your questions with this. First of all, when we talk about mental health, all of us have had mental health challenges. Mental health is our ability to function well, to have good relationships with others, to meet challenges in a healthy way, just to, develop emotionally and socially. That's kind of mental health. And, it's on a continuum. Some days we wake up, our mental, emotional health isn't that great. We may be sad, we may be angry about something that happened to us. So, all of us at some time in our life are going to face emotional, traumas. Um, I don't know anyone that, can escape that, but it's on a continuum. So when we look at mental health of young kids before the pandemic, anxiety is one of the most common mental health disorders, and that really, it is an issue. If we look at age and years, we see that the 6 to 11-year-old has about, almost 2% in this, and this comes from the U.S. Surgeon General's recent report just came out, as well as along with the Center for Disease Control. 6 to 11-year-olds experience depression. 12 to 17-year-olds experience depression. And my guess here, and some of the research holds it out, that part of the problem here is if a teen is not getting that 9 to 10 hours of sleep, it can really affect their mood. And if they're anxious to begin with and stressed to begin with and don't have good coping skills, that's going to be a gateway to more mental health issues. Anxiety, a little more 6 to 11-year-olds. We see it in 3 to 5-year-old kids too as well. And then anxiety really shoots up in the teens and 12 to 17-year-olds. And then behavior disorders is also an emotional health issue. So recently what we've seen, and this is the Surgeon General's report, is 1 in 5 kids from 3 to 17 years old have a reported mental, emotional, developmental, or behavioral disorders. That's like 20% of kids, 1 in 5. Now here's the sad part, only half of them are getting treatment. So if you see some very severe symptoms in your own kids and they're not being treated, I really encourage you to, talk to your primary care doc. And then this really shocking statistic, suicide rates have been going up among teen youth before the pandemic. They moved from like third cause of death to now it's second out of the top 5 causes of death. And there's been a 57% increase in suicide rates among 10 to 24-year-olds from 2007 to 2018. So we have to talk about mental health. We have to get rid of the stigma. If your child broke their arm, would you want to not do anything about it? But that's so visible, right? They broke their arm, you got to get them help. But if they have an emotional, disturbance, you need to get them help too as well. We want them to get treated. Here's another set for looking at teenage girls and teenage boys. The percent of parents, now this is parents noticing either new problems or worsening of an existing problem during the pandemic. So you see that in teen girls, anxiety really and depression really, really increased. It increased in teen boys too. And look at the sleep issues. Again, withdrawal from family. That's a sign of a stressor and potential mental health issues. Someone when they registered put a question about their teenage, I think it was son, who goes out and has with their friends, etc. But when they come home, they're withdrawn family. That is something to worry about. So, depression and anxiety doubled in kids since the start of the pandemic. We have 1 in 4 children reporting depression since the start, and 1 in 5 reporting anxiety. Now, these are both mental health diagnosable disorders, and we have kids walking around out there that have mental health issues, emotional disturbance issues and they're not being diagnosed. And so we're seeing, the impacts of this on their behavior. So when we look at the effects of pandemic and stressors on teens, it is kind of a mixed bag. Some kids did pretty well, with remote learning. Others did not. There were fears about safety, stability, the unknown, right? Well, I could say that's probably, adult, fears too as well. There was a break in routines. That is a huge one. That's prevention of aggressive behavior, prevention of problem behavior. Routines is about safety, predictability, and comfort. So what are your routines in your family? Think about the routines. Is there a routine from, in the mornings and in the evenings, and how child, on the weekends, do you have certain routines? That calms kids down to know what can expect, what to expect. And of course, stuff happens and, sometimes we have to break routines. But, if they have good stress coping strategies, kids can handle that. The social isolation, the confinement was huge for kids. We learn with each other, peers and teens, really critical to their emotional health, their social health. And some families lost family members. Very, very sad. And mourning and grief is occurring. And sometimes, with the very young kids and even teens, this can look like irritability and anger too as well. It looks different in kids than adults. The social unrest, the inequities have impacted kids. Family finances, screen time. Some kids did real well with screen, online learning. Others, not so much. One upside, kids got more sleep. And that was a good thing, on average, by some of the studies. And many kids reported feeling closer to their families. And that is a de-stressor. That, again, is that sense of, I belong to my family, they love and support me, etc. So let's look at the signs and symptoms very quickly. And these signs and symptoms of stress can be on a continuum. It can be from aggressive, to totally withdrawn. One of the signs and symptoms of depression is irritability and anger in teenagers too as well. And some kids handle stressors better than others. Here's some of the physical warning signs, and you have access to these slides so that you can go back to this as well. Headaches, stomach aches, nausea, dizziness, loss of appetite or overeating, either one. More colds and flu. What high stress, ongoing stress does, it doesn't cause illness, but what it does is it depresses the immune system. So our bodies are much more susceptible to things like colds and flus, etc. And here are some of the behavior, cognitive, and emotional signs of stress: moodiness, irritability, poor judgment. So, it's an array. And sometimes it's tough to know if the behavior that you're seeing in kids is about stress or about something else, more serious too as well, like depression or anxiety, etc. So even boredom and apathy can be a sign of stress. And a couple of more indicators for teen stress: if your teens are avoiding you, that should be worrisome. I always worry about, closed doors in teens' rooms for a long period of time. And if they've abandoned their long-time friendships for a new set of peers, that might be an indicator of chronic stress. And then any excessive hostility towards family members might be another sign of uh, excessive stress. So what do? You watch for changes in habits or behavior. So a calm kid all of a sudden is irritable and doesn't do their homework, or vice versa. An outgoing, aggressive child all of a sudden very withdrawn. So watch for changes in behavior. And sometimes, what we think are aggressive behaviors or, intentionally misbehaving may be a sign of unmanaged stress. So a lot of times inappropriate behavior, we just think, oh, stop that, or that's not appropriate. We never think, wow, that could be a sign of stress in this child. So that's something to think about too. So here's some more additional information about needing more support: changes in mood, changes in behavior, loss of interest, hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, or sleeping all the time, problems with memory, thinking, less interest in schoolwork, changes in appearance, hygiene, etc., increase in risky or reckless behavior. So just a little bit more during the pandemic. Thoughts about death or suicide. Got to take any comment that a child makes about death or suicide seriously. So how do kids cope with stress? Well, here's the 9 to 13-year-old. This was a national study. They do everything from play and do something active. That's a very healthy, stress reaction, a coping skill, listening to music, talking to friends, trying to work things out. Here's one not so healthy: eating something. Another one not so healthy coping: hurting themselves, cutting themselves, losing their temper. Not too many talk to parents. We'll talk about that in a second. Some cry. And then looking at teenagers, their reaction, their coping may be smoking, alcohol, other drugs, sleep. This is a good one. Family connection. They may be wanting more connection, more relationship with you and their siblings. So unhealthy coping can result in a range of problems. Everything from poor academic performance, conduct problems, anxiety, which is a diagnosable mental health disorder, one of the most common in young people, depression, suicide, eating disorders, and violence. I'm going to give you later on some resources too about that to find out more information. But I do want to emphasize anxiety disorder, what it is. It's a general feeling of worry or being apprehensive, and is, it's a normal reaction to stressful situations. But what's the red flag? The red flag should go up when the feelings become excessive, thoughts become irrational, and your child cannot function day to day. Okay, their regular functioning is debilitated. Anxiety disorders are characterized by excessive feelings of panic. Here's the panic attacks: fear, irrational discomfort in everyday situations. So those are some of the red flags that you want to be aware of. And this is when to worry about anxiety disorder: when a child won't discuss their fears or stress. And I have a handout for you about how to talk to your child or teen about stress. And it's some questions. And the big part is conversation, not lecture. Significantly affecting their home or school life, you should be worried. It will impact between 12 to 20% of kids. A third of all kids with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder have co-occurring anxiety disorder. Think about it. Things are hard for them in school and makes them anxious. Any significant trauma, a house fire, domestic violence, abuse, neglect, and even the pandemic I'd throw in here. It's been traumatic for some of us more than others. Okay? So what are some strategies? What can you do to help? Well, you can teach kids how to deal with stressors, and that will help them succeed. Remember, your biggest teaching tool is what you do yourself, your modeling. That's your biggest teaching tool. And we need to let our kids know, hey, you have a choice how you respond when you get a bad grade, or when your friend says something that you don't like, or when you get angry about a sibling taking something from you. You have a choice about how to react, and you can learn to manage stress and emotions to become calm, focused, and alert. So the relaxation, we heard about the stress response. The relaxation response can be triggered. It takes conscious awareness to trigger relaxation. It's focused awareness with an attitude of interest. Mind is calmer, clearer. It's that calm alertness, if you will. So relaxation response. How do you trigger the relaxation? 2 critical attributes. Mental attitude is passive, non-judging, and neutral. So when we did our breathing practices, if you were, being, this is boring, I don't like this, that's the opposite of neutral mind and being passive, non-judging. And then the second critical attribute, repetition. So that's why we focus on breathing, on prayer, repeated prayer, a word, a phrase, image, movement, walking, swimming, lifting weights. All of that is repetition, and that will trigger the relaxation response. It'll lower the stress hormones, and it'll tell your body, things are safe, I'm okay, and I can relax. So it has all kinds of positive, healthy impacts. I won't go through all of these, everything from less fear and anxiety to being able to control your actions, lessens impulsivity. It also improves your immune function. So, stressful breathing or relaxing breathing. We did some relaxing breathing. How you breathe can affect your stress levels. If you're breathing, your child's breathing, shallow breathing is linked to stress, but deep diaphragmatic breathing, where you get your air all the way down into your lungs and your diaphragm drops down, that will trigger relaxation as well. And we can focus on our breath to trigger relaxation and also relieve some body toxins. So how do you do some deep breathing practice? Do this with your teen, do this with your child. Pause and breathe deeply. There's some directions here for you. You teach this when your kid is calm. You don't teach, deep breathing in the middle of a crisis. It's a great way to stay in control. You want to sit back, have your back straight but not rigid, sitting in a chair, sitting on the floor, upright. You can teach a child to inhale through the nose to the count of 5, pause to the count of 2, exhale to the count of 5. And you just keep repeating that practice. Neutral mind, okay, we're going to do this together. Isn't this fun? And repetition. You can have your child place their hand on their belly so that they can notice their abdomen is expanding, contracting. For little kids, we put a little plush toy on their tummy and we have them lay down and we teach them how to raise the toy and drop the toy, raise the toy and drop the toy. So what are some other ways to help your child and teen cope with stress? There's a 2-page handout. And I'm not sure how it's being accessed, maybe in the chat. One side is helping children cope with stress, all kinds of practices. Got a lot of questions on this. The other side is teen stress and what to do about it. I'd say the first thing you want to emphasize is exercise. vigorous exercise. That is a calming effect. Have them go out and play. Have them be in, play with friends, sports. Talk through problems. There's also a handout that you have access to, and it's called How to Talk with Kids About Stress. It's not about lecturing. It's about, this sheet has like 8 questions. You ask the question and then you close your mouth and you just listen. Most of the time, we're telling kids what to do. It's the opposite. You want to listen so you can learn more. What's stressing your child out? They'll start telling you if you just listen more. Practice relaxation, self-calming skills. I'll show you a few more. For those kids that, are those perfectionists in your life, you got to teach that mistakes are okay. That's how we learn. We make mistakes, we fail, we reflect on what we just did and how we can make it better. Teach that mistakes are okay. You got to have clear rules and consequences. There's the routines, the consistencies. They know what your expectations are. You might even want to do the rules together so that they buy in. Teach how to handle difficult situations. Kids come up with all kinds of situations with friends, etc. Talk through, how would you handle that when your friend did such and such? Or how would you handle that when you got a D on that paper? How would you handle that? What kinds of skills do you have? Tell your own stories. Life is not a perfect, smooth path, right? They want to hear how you overcame things, that you pushed through with challenges. Tell your stories. Oh yeah, that happened to me when I was in the 5th grade or when I was in high school, and this is what happened, and this is what I learned, and this is how I changed, and this is how I handled it. And I asked for help, and I went to such and such, for help. Tell your own stories of effective coping. And then again, family rituals and routines are there. I know this is an awful lot to hit you with in an hour, but there are, again, I want to emphasize physical activity, consistently related. Someone said my child's self-esteem is low. Physical activity is consistently related to higher levels of self-esteem and lower levels of anxiety and stress. And kids playing, that unstructured play again, whether you're a teen, or younger. So there's a whole way, we all have to come up with our toolkit for stress busters. Laughing is a stress buster. Listening to calm music, talking with a friend, exercising, playing sports. We don't want to overwhelm with this hectic schedule, but exercise and sports are healthy. Taking a walk, breathing deeply, picturing yourself in a beautiful place. Your mind doesn't know that it's not real. So if you think about having your child or teen think about, what was that beautiful place we went on vacation that you just loved? Imagine yourself there. Your body doesn't know it's not there, but it'll get all those benefits of the relaxing hormones, the serotonin, etc., going through your body. Relax and take breaks, playing with your pet. So you have to help your child or teen come up with their own toolkit of stress busters. Again, regular breaks. Our brain needs downtime. Gratitude, counting your blessings, not saying thank you to someone you might take for granted. That's a stress buster too, as well. So as we kind of come to a close, I might go 1 or 2 minutes over. Here's some tips that kind of summarize what we just, went through the last hour. Staying healthy, staying calm. Create a routine. Make sure your child has a healthy routine. So here, eating healthy too, as well. Eating lots of fruits and veggies, balance protein, lower on that sugar, and those unhealthy processed foods. Listen to your child and check in frequently. How are you doing today? Tell me about your day. Not lecturing, but questioning and listening. And look for those signs of anxiety that you now know. Teaching coping skills, we talked a little bit about that. Focusing on controllable tasks like washing your hands. Really focus your attention on washing your hands mindfully. Teach kids, to do that. It's very calming. Encourage positive thinking. Stay connected with family, friends, grandparents, and please seek professional help if needed. If you see your child as changing their behaviors, changing their routines, changing their hygiene, being overwhelmed, please consider contacting your primary care doc. Kristen Henry, too, as well at Newport-Mesa Unified School District, has local resources for mental health services as well. There were several questions in the registration. So this is what the information looks like, helping your children, young children, and all kinds of things, making time for your day to be with your child. Help your child talk about stressful situations. Be patient. There's a whole list of practices and behaviors that you can try along with some more signs and symptoms. And then teens here, helping your teens react with healthy strategies too as well. We also have this in Spanish for you. And then here is the handout, How to Talk with Kids About Stress. It's a conversation, not a lecture. Okay? And there's some common signs of stress here. And these are questions. What causes you to stress out? And then go silent. Just listen. One way to get teens to talk, especially boys, is take a ride in the car where you're not eye to eye. You'd be surprised. Kids will open up in the car. There's some more handouts. This one is a slide I just added. The Orange County Department of Education has student mental health resources for you on a variety of topics. And if you want to revisit signs and symptoms, this resource here I created called Be Calm, resources for adults and youth, both apps, etc., different kinds of resources. Possibly, Kristen, you can put this in the chat box, or I'm not sure how you're sharing.
Yeah, so I've been dropping
resources.
your resources in the chat. I'll also be following up with an email to anybody who participated with the copy of the slide deck, and then everything will be available on our Parent Ed website too on the district.
Wonderful. And a couple of more I want to just share with you. Kids Health is put out by Duke University Medical Professionals. There's a whole section on emotions and behavior, and it's also in Spanish. And it's for parents. There's a section for young kids, and there's a section for teens. So Kristen will share this with you as well. And finally, I think this is the final resource, the Youth Mental Health Project. They're having webinars. This one's coming up on ADHD, eating disorders, body image disorders, March 10th. If you go to their website, they're free. They're free with very wonderful presenters. So I know I went 4 minutes over. Thank you for your time and attention and the important job you do as a parent.
So grateful for you, Dr. Bizzuto. I know that you were only taking a very few engagements since you retired, and I feel like such a privilege for you to be here with Newport-Mesa and sharing your wisdom and just talk about stress busters. Just your presence is a stress buster. And I love the overarching element about just relationship too, about our own well-being and the importance of relationship. And you've gotten so many texts, just thank you. And thank you for your evidence-based approach to this too, not sensationalizing it. I also did put a link in the chat also to Care Solace. So if there are family members in Newport-Mesa, our district provides for our families, it's a care concierge service. So if anybody's looking to connect with a mental health provider, it's as easy as going on to the district website or the website that I dropped, or just typing in Care Solace and NMUSD on Google, and that will link you right to service providers for you and your family and your children and yourselves. It's a full support. So this has been a great night that I think we could spend another 20 or 30 hours on, but maybe to be continued.
Well, and also I just want to say that my normal way is to interact with individuals through the chat, and I'm sorry we didn't get a chance, to do that. And but I wish you the best.
Well, and I also, there were some questions too that I was kind of answering. There was one question about the research on, was it SAWA, and about the nurturing environment and the profound effects. So somebody was interested in seeing that research or the evidence that you had cited. So if you want to get that to me, I can follow up and provide that as well. So
Great.
Without further ado, thank you so much. Have a lovely night. And thank you to everybody who joined us.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Yes, there will be a recording on the website. Good night.
Thanks, Kristen. Talk soon.